Dying Light, a game that over a period of 7 years has had over 23 million players and gone on to attract fans from around the world to create one of the best online communities on multiple platforms. It's also a game that has benefited from constant support in the form of new content and events that has continued to this day thanks to the game's developer Techland. However, with the release of Dying Light 2 now imminent, will the original game still receive that same level of support, or is it time to say goodnight and goodbye? In this video, I'm going to take a brief look back at where it all began and how it got where it is today. Gamers at E3 2013 got their first glimpse of a new type of zombie game from the creators of the original Dead Island when they showed this awesome CGI trailer with characters using parkour skills to outrun hordes of zombies. That game was of course Dying Light, and was so called due to the dynamic day and night cycle designed to instill fear in players that were caught outside as the sun began to set. It wasn't until E3 2014 though that fans were able to see this early gameplay trailer. Aside from zombie slaying, players were going to be able to traverse the fictional city of Harran using the game's unique parkour mechanics. Techland even brought in the founder of parkour himself, David Bell, as a consultant to help create the realistic and fluid movements needed to fully immerse the player. All of the skills seen in the gameplay were supervised by David, but he was never actually a character in the story. But I'm sure many of you are aware that the character of Hakon in the upcoming Dying Light 2 has been modelled on him this time around, which is a fitting tribute to someone who's played an integral role in the success of this game, albeit from behind the scenes. Techland was so committed to making the parkour elements of the game as realistic as possible that they decided to push back its original 2014 release date to 2015 in order to improve on it as much as possible. They also had no choice but to cancel the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions of the game, as tests had shown that these consoles simply could not handle it. In the lead up to launch, Techland went to shows around the world to promote Dying Light and to hype up the fans with gameplay presentations and giveaways. Dying Light lead designer Timon Smektala was showing all the way back then just how committed Techland were to the fans, and they were determined to release a game that met their expectations. The game finally launched in January of 2015 to mainly positive reviews and was widely praised for its combat, detailed environments and co-op features. Dying Light went on to earn over 50 awards and nominations, and during the first 6 months released several new DLC expansions and a new weapons bundle. The Be the Zombie mode, which was originally a pre-order feature, was made available to everybody after the physical release of Dying Light was delayed in certain territories. Within the first 2 months, the Cuisine and Cargo DLC and the Ultimate Survivor bundle went on sale, and then in May of that year they dropped the biggest expansion DLC to date with the Bozak Horde. This early level of support was really setting the precedent for the future of this amazing game. Just over a year later, in February 2016, Techland launched a massive expansion DLC called The Following that essentially brought us a brand new story and was the next chapter for the game's main character Kyle Crane. This DLC was included in a re-release of Dying Light called The Following Enhanced Edition and was available to download for free to Season Pass holders, but was also available to buy separately. The Following took Crane out of the city and into the countryside, searching for evidence of people who were immune to the virus, and to infiltrate a mysterious cult called the Faceless. The Following introduced a buggy to Dying Light as a means of getting around the huge countryside map, so parkour didn't really play such a big role here, and some felt that that was to its detriment. But personally, I love the buggy, and once it's fully upgraded, it's actually a blast to use. It's not just great fun to compete in the driving challenges throughout the map, but simply smashing through fields of zombies is almost as satisfying as slicing and dicing them with a weapon. I also prefer the storyline in The Following, as it's actually much better than that of the main campaign in my opinion. I think most would agree that despite the many aspects of Dying Light that made it great, the story wasn't its strongest point. Now, there aren't many developers who would have given as much support for a title as Dying Light received in those first 2 years, and Techland could have justified simply moving on to the next big project at this point. They were of course looking to make a sequel by now, but the original game was still regularly getting 500,000 online players in 2017, and so Timon announced that there would be a further 10 content drops in the coming year, including new enemies, a new challenge map called the Prison Heist, and it was all going to be completely free. They also partnered with several other developers to bring fans together for crossover events and take part in community bounties for in-game rewards. And it's these frequent events for Dying Light that really show an unprecedented level of support rarely seen in the gaming industry. I mean, still to this day, Techland runs seasonal events for Christmas, Easter and Halloween, and in between those there have been regular Super Crane or Hypermode events. Instead of simply using the same old thing each time, they still update the game on a frequent basis by adding new content for brand new events and corresponding DLC bundles. One recent update even added UFOs to the map, and the event added a low gravity effect that made jumping around like being on the moon. Alongside that, they released an astronaut bundle to go with it, and the most recent bundle was the Snow Ops bundle in December 2021, nearly a whole 7 years after Dying Light launched. And whatever your opinion on new paid DLC content coming out for such an old game, there's no denying that it's pretty unique. And it's this level of support that not only keeps people coming back for more, but is still attracting new players even now. I think everybody was surprised when Techland announced in 2020 that they were going to bring out a new expansion DLC for Dying Light. This one was going to be based on their unfinished Hellraid project, and it launched in July of that year to a fairly lukewarm reception. The DLC didn't really meet the expectations people had for it, and it was simply a series of challenge levels with mostly reskinned enemies from Dying Light in some dungeon-like environments. However, Techland had promised from the start that they were going to be adding more content to it in the future. Amazingly, they kept their promise and updated Hellraid in October of the same year with new bounties and weapons, but despite giving us a reason to play it again, it didn't really improve on the experience that much. I'm pleased to say though that halfway through 2021 they updated Hellraid again, and this time they added a new story mode and some new environments to explore. This update greatly enhanced the experience, and they didn't stop there either. A further 2 updates added even more levels and a couple of magic wands, and amazingly a completely new enemy type in the shape of Lord Asmrod, who's actually really difficult to beat. So Hellraid is the Dying Light DLC nobody asked for, but despite this, Techland have remained committed to regularly updating it as promised, proving yet again that Dying Light is probably the most supported old game out there. So as you can see, there's a common theme to this video, but as Dying Light 2 is about to launch in February, you have to wonder how much longer Techland will continue to support the original game now. Yes, the Dying Light Platinum Edition released on Nintendo Switch recently, and by all accounts is a very good port, but it remains to be seen whether that version of the game will get any support at all, as currently it can't be linked to Techland GG, and Switch players cannot take part in community events or buy any new DLC. This could be more to do with Nintendo than Techland of course, but there's no guarantee that this will get resolved anytime soon. I have every faith that Techland will take into consideration that not everyone is going to buy Dying Light 2 on launch day, and for that reason we'll still be mindful of their Dying Light 1 fanbase. But of course they can't plan on supporting this game forever. One thing that's for sure though is that as long as there is new content and continued support for Dying Light, then I'll stay committed to bringing you any new developments as they happen. But of course my main focus will be moving on to Dying Light 2 in the first few months after its launch, as it's probably going to be taking up much of my available time. So this probably isn't goodbye just yet for Dying Light, but it will undoubtedly be taking a backseat to Dying Light 2 on my channel in the short term at least. Although I'll do my best of course to stay on top of both games. So what do you think? Will Dying Light be kept alive for a little while longer, or is it going to have to step aside for Dying Light 2 when it comes to support and player base? Are you all about the sequel now, or are you still going to be partial to running around Haran with your mates in your spare time? Personally, I'm really looking forward to the next chapter in the Dying Light story, but of course I'll always have a soft spot for the original game, and will never forget that my whole channel came into being after discovering Dying Light on disc in a trade-in shop only 2 years ago, and for that I'm very grateful. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little tribute to Dying Light, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more Dying Light and of course Dying Light 2 content in the future, and I'll see you there. Cheers.